Alright, so before moving on with the other elements we'll need to, before we start writing our novel, before we start plotting. Now this isn't plotting. What we're doing right now is just coming up with the elements we need to make a good story. We're just coming up with a story structure. And then we'll start plotting, which will be to come up with the different things that will occur on this timeline. So notice I gave him two needs. I gave him a psychological need, which is he needs peace. He needs to come to grips with his sister's rape. And I've given him a moral need. He needs justice. This is a physical need, something that happens physically to someone. In this case, he wants justice done on the rapist. And that will be either death. In his case, he wants the person dead, but he realizes that's not the way. So justice will be the person going to jail. But that's what he wants. So he has two. It's good to give your character two needs: a physical need, justice to be served, and a moral or a psychological need, something that's within himself. He needs to come to grips with something, overcome something within himself. And it could be a fear, actually. Maybe it could be Indiana Jones facing his snake fear. That could be a psychological need, but that doesn't drive the story. That's just a little side thing. So that's just something that you put in the plotting. It's like, oh, okay, fear. So, these are things you can give your character. You can give your character strengths and weaknesses, and another weakness can be a fear. I can give him a fear of snakes, so I give him a fear of spiders. I can give him a fear of something if I wanted to. Fear of hospitals, like I have. And I can actually have that come into play somewhere in the conflict. It can actually be part of the conflict, that he needs to go into a hospital. Actually, I like this. To find Charlie or something, because Charlie's, I don't know, he needs to go to the hospital for some reason in order to advance the plot, or he needs to do something. I don't know, maybe he has a fear of dark alleys, he needs to chase Charlie down a dark alley, or he has a fear of spiders or something. I'm trying to think of one. Maybe the hospital will work. I don't know. Alright, so I've decided a fear of heights is good. So he has a fear of heights, and he needs to go up a high building. He chases Charlie up this high scaffolding, and that's how he kills Charlie. And maybe he doesn't even totally want to kill Charlie. He does, but he kind of, when he does it and Charlie falls, he realizes that, oh my gosh, I don't know if I wanted to do that or not. He kind of feels good that Charlie's dead, the rapist is dead, but he still is addicted to drugs. He still feels no peace, and nonetheless, then before he has his revelation that, hey, killing is not going to help me, then he finds out that Bob's the real, that somebody else is. Maybe he finds out that Charlie's not. He doesn't know it is Bob yet. So he has there. You can keep a mystery. He still needs to find the real rapist, and that continues to drive the plot forward. And then, he finds him, and that's when he has his self-revelation. Okay, so fear of heights, and adding all these weaknesses and also strengths. Let's say one of Jack's strengths is he's really good at figuring things out. He's good at seeing patterns in things. He's good at looking at situations and solving problems. So he's a good problem solver, and that's how he actually finds the rapist. Something the cops can't do. And another strength, which can also be his weakness, is his desire. That is, not his desire. Excuse me. His willpower. He's very determined. He is such a determined person. When he wants something, he gets it. He doesn't give up. He just keeps going and going and going. He just drives and drives. So that's a strength, but it can also be a weakness, because it can cause him to treat others in ways he shouldn't be treating them. So I can just add to the depth of Jack by giving him that strength. So he's very determined. Did I spell that right? Okay, cool, I spelled it right. And his determination, being so willpower, having so much willpower, actually leads him to start also causing, it leads him to immoral decisions. It makes him do stupid things. And we'll get into this in the plotting, because it's something you really want in a story when we get into the plotting parts. So yeah, so this is important that he has this strength here. Now there's one other thing we need before we start plotting, and that is we need scene, we need backdrop, we need the world. We need to create the world in which the story is going to take place in, because the world is really going to change the story. If I make this story take place on another planet, it becomes a sci-fi. And that can be very cool. Or I can make it take place in a big city. I can make it take place in a more country setting. I can make it take place in Alaska, in a snowy place. So where the story takes place will really determine the feel of the story. It can also change Jack. It can also change everything. So what do we want to go with? I can choose several settings that he needs to travel to a couple places, but it's really good to focus on one central place to make the story more cohesive. So I'm actually going to go with let's go with sci-fi. Maybe they're not even humans. Maybe Jack is an alien that kind of looks human, and we can actually give him some alien things. Or maybe they are humans that are on another planet and there's other species. So this can become interesting. So we're going to make the planet alien. And so because of that, we'll probably need to spend more time, describing certain things that are unique. But when you do make an alien planet, you also want to, add a lot of human qualities to it that we can identify with. So I'm going to make it pretty much kind of like an Earth planet. It's an Earth-like planet, but it has, maybe more futuristic technology, maybe hovering cars, and I don't know, perhaps it has its slums, it has its rich parts, so it's pretty much like Earth, but a little bit more futuristic technology, and it has a couple different species on it, and those species will play a cool backdrop for the story. And maybe it turns out his real rapist, Bob, is another species that looks very much human, let's say, but it's different, and I don't know what he can be. He can be whatever I want him to be. Anyway, the backdrop is very important, so that's another element you need before you start writing a story. Alright, so there's another element we need, the story world. And in this case, our story world that I decided to go with is another planet, and I don't need to know the name of it yet, but I can actually, by giving names to things, I can make symbols. But anyway, so story world. So let's go ahead briefly and go over the things that we need before we start plotting out our story. And when we plot out, we're just going to come up with the major parts. You're still going to have to do all the writing and all the imaginative parts. It's still going to feel like you're sitting down and you're just writing from scratch, but you have having all this information before you do that will save you a lot of heartache and will actually make you finish your novel. Knowing the end goal and knowing all this, it'll make it much easier to finish your novel. If you just start writing not knowing any of this stuff, you'll probably never finish it, and a lot of writers never finish their novels. Right, so in the next video we'll go over the plotting, but before we do that, let's go ahead and make sure we have everything we need here. Starting from the first thing we just decide on is the goal. That is the thing the character is going to reach or not reach at the end. In this case, the goal is to kill his rapist, to get revenge. And he realizes that that's not what he wants, which gives the revelation. And so that's another thing we need, actually. Let me put that on. Okay, and the revelation happens at the end by the goal. And you can also have an audience revelation before he has his self-revelation. So you know before he knows. And that's always good too. But that's not necessary. You don't have to have that. But you definitely need to have his revelation, something that he realizes at the end of the story. You also need to, and part of the revelation is have him come to grips with his weaknesses, and either he solves them or he's going to solve them, but you need to resolve that. These things need to be resolved. Anyway, so we have our goal. We have a revelation at the end. Now this gives us our desire. We know what Jack's desire is now, and his desire will lead him to the end of the goal. And now we need his needs that will drive his desire. So we know his goal is to get revenge, and what is going to fuel that desire? Well, we need an event, and so obviously that was that the opponents, which we also need, and the opponents, or the opponent, but there's gonna be more than one, and I can actually make more than one opponent, and an opponent can also be, the world itself and environment. It doesn't have to be people. Okay, I'm gonna actually just keep this up for I can see my time here. I'm using Camtasia, but anyway, I'm gonna keep this down here if I can see my time. Okay, so we need so foreshadowing. We need conflict, we need a story world, we need our opponents, we need allies, and we need other main characters. I haven't wrote that on this, but we're going to need those. But and very importantly, we need the character's needs, which lead to his desire. That is, he has two of them: a physical one, which is justice, and a psychological one, which is peace. And he needs inner peace. So this leads to his desire to get revenge because he wants that peace. He thinks that will give it to him. So the need leads to his desire. And I have to cut the video off for now, and we'll continue.